Imagine what it'd be like to get your hands on the first ever EV to travel from the North Pole to the South Pole. Well, we don't have that specific car, but we do have the 2023 Nissan Ariya. Just for some context, Chris and Julie Ramsey's epic pole-to-pole adventure took a Nissan Ariya from the Arctic Ocean to the South Pole, a 30,000 kilometre journey in just 10 months. They faced extreme temperatures, high altitudes and rugged terrain, proving just how capable EVs really are. So you can forget the flared wheel arches, the massive tyres and in fact the snow, because we live in the UK. Kudos to the designers of this car. You know, it's a very sleek, modern looking, luxurious vehicle, particularly inside, which we'll get onto later on. But I'm still a bit torn as to whether I actually do like the design of the car. But today is about finding the perfect environment for this car. So first impressions of the Nissan Ariya, particularly at the front end. They've done a really good job of making this kind of sweeping styling at the front there. There's a lot of interest in here with the little details behind. I mean, you can't actually, it feels very tactile, but you can't actually touch it. Sweeping headlights here, you've got these LEDs running down on that side as well, which is also the indicator. These are actually air vents for that maximum speed in sport mode, which we'll get onto in a little while. And come over here and we're going to look at these wheels, because you kind of get a three-tier effect with this. Now you've got the black in there, these little silver details, just makes it a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay, so onto the charging. Now you have a CCS charging port in there, which is capable of plugging into a maximum of 130 kilowatt charger. Now in this model, which is the, hang on, wait for it, e-4ORCE Evolve Plus. I think I got that right. I'm sure the producer will give me a tick if I got that right. In this model, we've got 87 kilowatt hour battery, and in kilowatts of power, that's 290. So I'm not going to say the name for you again, but the e-4ORCE, or e-Force, I think it's meant to say, that stands for the four-wheel drive in the car, which is powered by a dual motor setup. You've got 4 different varieties of this car which you can choose from, all different price ranges. You've got the Evolve Plus, the Evolve, the Advance and the Engage, which is the lower end model. But the Evolve Plus that we're looking at today is going to cost you around £60,000. Well, if you want to justify that cost, we better take a look inside. These carpets, now, these cost an extra around £350 with these carpets in here. Now, they are a lot nicer than my carpets at home, but I'm kind of questioning whether it'd be worth it for me. So, jump in and I'll give you the full entrance experience. I'll press this button here and drawn into position, just like that. So just to give you an overview of how it looks in here, and I'm sure you can see how pristine it is inside the cab. You've got Napa leather in here in blue, which is the only available colour in this top Evolve Plus model. You've also got some blue suede, some little wood effect trims here, and actually the lights kind of showing through with all these buttons. You've got the haptic buttons that you can press. A little bit less invasive, however, when you are driving it kind of feels like you're just reaching for something and something might happen. I mean, I just swipe there and recirculation comes on. You also got this wraparound display at the front here. Now there is a lot of things going on. You've got your Apple CarPlay set up here, along with music settings, navigation. Then that wraps around to here. You've got a day and night mode, so you can dim the screens if you're driving at night, and you can also adjust that here. Interestingly, so that they've put certain things in, and some of them are touch, so they're not haptic. On here we've got haptics. It's kind of the theme of this car. They can't quite decide what they want to use for everything, whether they want to use haptics, whether they want to use buttons that are sort of indented into the plastics, whether you want touchscreen, whether you want little buttons here on the steering wheel that click really hard and you feel like you might break them. It's just a varying degree of materials in here, and it doesn't necessarily affect the design, I would say, but I do think that they could maybe stick to just a handful of ways to do things. I think when you're driving, you're almost like unsure as to whether there's going to be a click or a haptic touch, or whether you're just going to have to poke it and pray that it's going to work. Now, in terms of readjusting, I do really like the fact that they've got a lot of electronic readjustments in the car. It gives you that sort of luxury feel. As you saw there, when I jumped in, it remembered my setting, put me into my position, steering wheel comes down and forward, seat comes forward as well. Now you can adjust all of that on the side here with obviously the buttons on the edge, and it tells you what you're doing on here, so you know what buttons you're pressing. Interestingly, you've also got this one here, so there's two arrow buttons which will show you, and you can actually move the center console into the perfect position. And look, all this space appears just here. You can bring it really far forward, which I find is quite nice for a comfy drive. See how far it goes, just like that. Now you have pretty much a shelf in between you and your passenger. In here, not really much to say in here. I'm pretty disappointed that there's no cubby in there. You've got phone charger in here. Not really too sure what the flower with petal symbol is on there, but there's a little gap in there. Oh, hang on. Oh no, that's just rubber. Sliding cubby hole there with the oil cup holders. We have got 2 bottles to test how big we can fit. That's unfortunately a little bit too big. Let's try this one over here. No, I think that one will fit. So, normal size water bottle. Unfortunately, gym goers, you're gonna have to buy a new water bottle, but that fits in there. I don't think it's not gonna go anywhere, but it's not exactly snug in that thing there. But in terms of the rest of the interior now, obviously leather seats, it's a sunny day today, and I was expecting to burn myself on a scorching seat, but actually these are ventilated, and it does make a lot of difference, especially if you're on a long drive. Drove this for about an hour and a half consistently, and I mean, you can kind of feel it almost. It kind of feels like it's cooling from the underneath and also at the back as well. Very comfy. Obviously you've got the adjustable bit so you can put yourself in the perfect position. Steering wheel can also be moved with that one there. I forgot to mention that. We've also got a massive sunroof in the top here, and there's a kind of a dual screen setting that goes across, so you have to click that twice. Oh, no, it's full. You have to click one of these buttons once and again so you can have the full thing open, and then the second button there is to pull the actual window back, so I can put my hand up on the roof and have my little Hollywood moment of standing outside the car. So with all the electronic adjustments in here, I really do like this next feature. I'm just going to mention there's a little button, a little cutout there for the main glove box. And the driver's kind of got their own, because you can actually press hold this button and reveal an extra bit of space for you to use. I don't really know what this, again, it's another one of these covers with the flower symbol on top, but you've got plenty of storage in there to fit various different things. Not your gloves, because I don't think people really use gloves anymore, do they? Why do they even call it a glove box anymore? It's usually just full of tat and user manuals. Obviously the infotainment does sweep round. Camera here, you can get a view around you. That comes on when you're parking anyway, so I don't see why you need that. Although it is very tricky when you're driving to kind of see the blind spots. You do have to move quite a bit to see what's going on around you. Auto park menu there. I have given this a go. I might try it again later on, but I'm yet to have a success, particularly at a busy car park. Anyway, let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Don't know. Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. There are more cameras. Got blind spots at left-hand side. That's just the same one. And we just have the left-hand side. So now one thing I didn't realise I needed was, obviously you've got the normal mirror here, which is quite dark. You can't really see out the window much. We'll talk about that in a minute, but personally, it's kind of, you can do away with that really. But up here, if you flick that, you've got a camera behind you. Now I personally think it's much better, much clearer to look at the camera, definitely brighter. Now in the back here, you can definitely feel that sense of prestige that you get in the front. They have kind of hidden the plastics a little bit down here, like you can see all the scratchy bits here, but they do still have obviously the Nappa leather, the suede, finishing off the back part of the car. So you've also got in the back here 2 rear heated seats. Obviously when you've got the ignition on, you can power them both separately. You've got normal USB in here and also USB-C charging with the fan bit in here, and those kind of those wooden effect trims on the back there to finish that off. Now, not much else to say. Obviously these will all be cooling as well when the temperature's set in the car, but realistically I think overall just The type of materials they've used just makes it really comfortable, really smart, and in fact the space is probably one of the biggest things about this car. Whether you're in the front or in the back, you've got loads of room to spread out. Okay, so we'll take a quick look at the back of the car. Now obviously you've got this bold light strip going across there with the little Nissan logo nestled in there. If you need to know how to spell E-4ORCE, then it's written down here. I'm sure we'll show you that in a second. And obviously the camera is somewhere nestled in there. Now just to show you how much space we've got in the back, hopefully this works. So clearly I'm off for a filming trip in the wild. I've got my boots in here, my camera gear, a few other stuff, and some odd bags just to kind of show you how much space. What's quite interesting is that you can kind of shuffle your things out of the way, and you have got access to the bottom here. There's a little hole there. If you have the whole boot empty, you have actually got another that lift up there. You've got the CCS charger there, and also your 3-pin plug in there as well. I think with the Evolve Plus, all the interest is really in the interior, which is the place that you really want to be the most. With that said, I think driving really brings it into its own. So let's take this car for a spin. So my first impressions driving the Nissan Ariya, it definitely lives up to the comfortable feeling you get in the interior. Very smooth driving, very easy on the steering and things like that. I want to talk about the different driver modes. So down here, it's very easy to select different driver modes. So you've got at the top there, Sport, Standard, Eco, and this last one baffles me. We've got Snow mode. Surely that should be replaced for something like Rain mode, traction in the rain or something like that. So standard mode is what you'll jump into the car to. Usually when you get in and out of the car, it will kind of reset a lot of the settings that you've got. But standard is very quick, very comfortable. Steering is very, very responsive, also quite light. You can see the lane controls having a go at me there. Now, when it comes to sport mode, now I'm going to drop that in there before or after this bend, because you can probably see the minute I punch that throttle, it is insanely quick. Like scarily quick, and there's a little sort of drone noise that they put in there just to tell you that you are in sport mode. Now we're going to drop it down into eco mode. Now I've probably lost a lot of charge from that one little punch there, but eco mode, it kind of slows things down a little bit. It gives you a little bit less power, but I feel like it's a good setting for driving in the city because it loosens up the steering a little bit, makes it a lot easier to maneuver around. And then you've got, again, this snow mode. Bit more power. I didn't move my foot, but you've got a little bit of kick there. Again, the steering is pretty much the same. I don't really know what that's for. Right, now I'm going to talk you through the various different modes with no correlation between them all. Firstly, you've got, generally speaking, on a lot of EVs, they have a D and a B switch, which is obviously your drive mode, and the B is supposed to be Regen braking, or B for braking, but I think there's a little bit of a difference between them. When you have because as standard you have the E-pedal mode set up already, so obviously when you let go of the throttle, it slows you down and you pick back up. That can be quite annoying. I find if you're gently coasting along a country road and if you let off a little bit too much, it just jolts you slightly. It's kind of like when I was younger, my dad used to say, "There's a kangaroo in the bonnet," and he would start doing all this malarkey. That's basically what it is. There's a kangaroo in the bonnet of this Nissan. Now, again, Regen braking mode is not much different. I think there's a bit more braking in there, a bit sharper. You do notice the needle switch a lot more to sort of power generation. Now, this next setting, so the E-pedal mode, which is what everyone thought was going to be a single pedal driving mode, it's not necessarily that. You can't just roll up to a roundabout and come to a complete stop. You either come too far away from it or you don't stop at all. Again, lane assist is having a go at me there. You don't actually come to a proper stop, and it can't really decide how far it wants you to go. I've noticed as well, that there is kind of a similar amount of power that you get when you let go of the throttle. So I wonder whether they've just got like a standard sort of regen amount that doesn't necessarily, there's no AI kind of powering it to tell it how much it needs in relation to the distance of the road or the speed that you're going. To be honest, the only time when you don't think about regen braking is when you have cruise control on, along with driving assistance on the motorway. I think the motorway has got to be the perfect place to drive the car. It's smooth, it's simple, it can keep track of the cars in front of you really easily, picks them up really quickly, and also it kind of assists you with the lane as well. My final point, when it comes to all of the modes on the dashboard that I can see here, one of my favorite ones when I'm driving along a nice long stretch is put it in drive, take off that e-pedal, and just, oh, don't forget sport mode, and just let it go. All in all, I think this Nissan Ariya Evolve Plus e-4ORCE really comes into its own on the motorway. Out of all the places we've driven it today, so the countryside, in towns and cities, and on the main roads, it definitely is a comfort vehicle. Particularly inside, it's great for families, for getaways, long trips, or just as a luxury car. I still have a love-hate relationship with the vehicle, particularly the design on the outside. It doesn't really float my boat, but hopefully we've given you a good insight into the vehicle. I've been Tom Swallow, and this is EV Powered. Catch you next time.